You know what's funny about becoming a parent? The movies don't change. You do. As a kid, I watched Home Alone and wanted to be Kevin, and now I watch it and wonder how his parents survived that trip. I used to think Marlin from Finding Nemo was overprotective. Now I get it. And Mrs. Doubtfire, I thought it was just one of the funniest movies ever made. And today I see something completely different. A dad who just wanted more time with his kids. It's funny how becoming a parent changes the stories we loved our whole lives. Today, we're counting down my favorite parent movies of all time and what they've taught me about being a dad. Welcome back to Mostly Me, Occasionally Wise. I am your host, Brian, and today we are talking about my top 8 parenting movies of all time. These are simply the movies that, when I think about parenting, sacrifice, family, unconditional love, and all that mushy stuff, these are the ones that come to mind. Some are hilarious, some will absolutely make you cry, and every one of them reminds me of something I hope I never forget as a dad. Now, before we get into number 8 and continue with the countdown, let's get into Dad Life Debrief. If you're new to the show, Dad Life Debrief is simply an opportunity for you to join me outside of the podcast and experience life as a husband, father, family man, chaos coordinator, everything in between. And if you listened last week, we didn't do Dad Life Debrief. We had the amazing Danielle Frank on, and I really wanted to make the episode all about her because she had so much to talk about with her book, her time at Miramax, and everything else. It's an amazing show. And if you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend you go back and listen to last week's episode. It was a whole lot of fun. So, Dad Life Debrief. Last week, we celebrated Father's Day. And each kid got me something on their own. So, the 19-year-old, I'm a big comic book guy. My 19-year-old got me a Doctor Strange comic and a couple of Marvel comic trading cards because I had toyed with the idea of starting to collect again, but I didn't know where to start. And it's a little intimidating nowadays. If you know anything about the card collecting hobby, it's just, there's so much to take in. There's so much, to learn. So she got me started with getting me 2 Marvel comic cards. One was Cable and one was Archangel, 2 of my favorite Marvel heroes, besides Doctor Strange. My 13-year-old son got me a trip to an amusement park. He wanted to go spend some time with me, and as a matter of fact, we just got back, so we're both beat. But this amusement park had a water park as well, and we had a lot of fun. I will say this, I am extremely sore, my legs are sore, and my balls hurt. And what I mean by that is the fact that I was going down one of the slides, laying on my stomach, and I don't like water slides to begin with, so he used my own parenting advice against me. So he's not a big roller coaster guy. He'll get on them because he loves me, and he kind of wants to, experience that adrenaline. But he was done after we did one roller coaster. And he had talked about being scared, and I kind of forced him on this roller coaster and told him, hey, we're going to get over your fear of roller coasters, if there is a fear. So I told him, when we got ready to go to the water park side of the park, that I wasn't going to do water slides. I just don't like them. And there's not a fear behind it. It's just, I'm not a fan of them. And he was so adamant after lunch that he was going to get me on one of these water slides. And anyways, we get to the top of this thing after hiking, 3 or 4 flights of stairs. So I was winded, I was tired. And you get on this mat and you hold on to these handlebars and you're laying on your stomach and you can see what's in front of you. And I'm nervous because I'm 42 years old and I'm thinking, okay, what kind of damage is this going to do to my body? And so the lifeguard blows his whistle and we go. And this slide is kind of curvy going down. The best way I can describe this slide is if you've ever been to like a state fair, there's a slide that you get on like a potato sack. And you sit on this potato sack and you slide down this ride. That's what it's kind of like, but it's got some curves to it. So this water slide, we're going down and we hit the first curve. And then the second curve, I kind of go airborne, and then I come down on my nuts. And it hurts. And I have to position myself to prepare for the third loop that I'm going down. And I'm in pain and I'm already nauseated immediately. And we get to the bottom and I have to lay there. Of course, my 13-year-old son is laughing so hard because he had just gotten his dad to go on a slide, and you could clearly tell that either I was in pain or I was scared. I think I was a little bit of both at the time, but pain was really what I was feeling. I don't regret going down the water slide because he enjoyed it. It was a bonding moment that we got to share, but his Father's Day gift to me was a trip to this amusement park / water park. We had a lot of fun. We're kind of done with the sun for today. Like I said, we're a little sore, and after I get done with this episode, I'm going to go jump in the shower because we all know public pools usually are full of pee. But anyways, my 4-year-old's gift is he wants to do cookies. We bake cookies together a lot, and there's a local place here in town that you can decorate cookies, just basic run-of-the-mill sugar cookies, but you can decorate them. And he really wants to do that with me. And so he got me that, and then he got me a Michael Myers stuffy. If you've listened to the show before, I have made it pretty clear that I'm a big fan of Halloween. Halloween being one of my favorite movies of all time. And he kind of shares that love with me. Granted, he's never seen the movie, and we are in no hurry to allow him to watch this movie, but he knows that I love Michael Myers in the movies, and of course he's a daddy's boy, so he wants to learn and love everything that I do. And so he got me this Michael Myers stuffy, and it was great. It's a great Father's Day. Becca made me a lemon dessert, and she got me a Michael Myers t-shirt with him making a heart shape with his hands. It was really good. We also had sushi. Sushi, one of my favorite foods at Rock and Roll Sushi. If you have a Rock and Roll Sushi in town, highly recommend you go to it. There's a lot of nostalgia there with the music that they play. Plus, the sushi is really, really, really good. So, yeah, we've been busy since then. We did the water park / amusement park today. And, of course, we're gearing up for the 4th of July, which is coming up in a few days. And if you buy a fireworks, oh my gosh, they're so ridiculously expensive. So we're trying to budget for that because for the boys, the 4-year-old and the 13-year-old, they are so excited. And if we had all the money in the world, we would probably spend it all at the fireworks stand because that's just something that they love to do. So we're struggling with that on how much to budget because it seems like every fireworks stand is different as far as prices go. And we don't just have a place that we go to every year because if I had it my way, I'm kind of at the age now where I enjoy watching other people set them off and then watching the magic unfold, unless it's a dud, which anybody who has gone to a fireworks show or have bought in fireworks realize that at least one of them, if not two of them, are going to be duds, and you're going to be frustrated because that firework that didn't cooperate was a pretty expensive one. So, like I said, I'm kind of at the age now where I just enjoy watching everybody else do it because, for one, I didn't break my account buying these fireworks. Other people did, and I was invited to the barbecue. Now, granted, I do bring something food-wise to the barbecue, so I've contributed. But as far as the fireworks funds go, yeah, if we didn't have the boys, we probably wouldn't be firing fireworks anymore. So with that said, we're looking forward to it. And of course, we will buy some fireworks for the boys to shoot off at my mom's 4th of July party, which is what we're going to. So with that said, let's get into my top 8 parenting movies of all time. Number 8 is Look Who's Talking. I don't know about you, but I have such a soft spot for this movie. Look Who's Talking came out in 1989, and if you grew up in that era, chances are you probably have seen this movie more than once. The premise for this movie is ridiculous in the best possible way You hear the inner thoughts of a baby while the adults are stumbling around him through life. And, of course, the voice of the baby's inner thoughts, R1, Bruce Willis, does a phenomenal job in this movie. But as a kid, the talking baby was the joke. And as an adult, the parents are, because now I understand exactly how exhausted they are. They're making decisions on almost no sleep, trying to pretend that they know what they're doing. Oftentimes wondering if they're messing their kid's life up. Does this sound familiar? Because it should. I remember bringing my daughter home from the hospital. I honestly thought someone was going to stop us in the parking lot and ask, "Excuse me, sir, are you qualified to take her home?" Because I certainly didn't feel qualified. No one gives you a manual. Nobody hands you a certificate that says, "Congratulations, you now know everything about raising children." You just start. And every day you learn something new. Sometimes your kids are actually teaching you. And that's what I love about this movie. It reminds us that every parent starts as a beginner. Nobody has it figured out, and we're just all trying to do our best. This next movie gets more emotional every time that I watch it. And number 7 is Father of the Bride. When I was younger, I thought Steve Martin was overreacting. It's a wedding. Everything's going to be fine. Now, I completely understand George Banks. This movie isn't really about a wedding. It's about time. It's about looking at someone who used to sit on your shoulders and realizing they're building a life of their own now. And as parents, we spend years teaching our kids to become more independent. We cheer when they take their first step. We encourage them to chase their dream. But every milestone comes with a tiny bit of heartbreak. Because each milestone just simply means that they're growing up. You know, my son is still little, but I already catch myself thinking, when did that happen? When did he stop needing help with that? You know, when did he get so tall? People always tell parents, enjoy it. It goes by fast. And I used to think that was just something older parents said. Now I realize it isn't advice. It's a warning. So if you got little kids at home, pick them up. Read one more bedtime story. Watch one more cartoon, because one day you'll wish you could. The next one on this list, if you haven't seen it, you need to put it on your list. I'm talking about number 6, Parenthood. Seriously, this might be the most honest portrayal of family life ever made. It doesn't pretend that good parents always have the right answers. It doesn't pretend kids are easy. It doesn't pretend marriage is effortless. Instead, it shows real people trying their best. One of my favorite lines from this movie compares life to a roller coaster. Some people like the merry-go-round because it's safe. Others like the roller coaster because it's exciting. And parenting is definitely the roller coaster. Some days you're convinced you're crushing it. Your kid says something sweet, you have dinner, everyone goes to bed happy, and you think, I've got this. Everything is going to be okay. Then the next 24 hours happen. Someone's crying, someone refuses to eat dinner because the macaroni is the wrong shape. You're negotiating with a tiny human about why shoes are necessary to leave the house, and somehow you're questioning every parenting decision you've ever made. And that's real life. That's why this movie has endured for decades, because it reminds us that there are no perfect families. Only families that keep showing up for one another. And maybe that's enough. All right. Coming in at number 5 is Stepmom. Now, I'll warn you, if you've never seen this movie, go ahead and buy a box of tissues before you press play. As a matter of fact, buy 2, because you're gonna need them. This movie tells the story of a family trying to figure out life after a divorce. You have a mother who is facing the unimaginable, a stepmom who's trying to find her place, and the children get caught somewhere in the middle of all this. But what I love about this movie is that no one starts off as the hero. Everyone is hurt. everyone is scared and everyone is making mistakes throughout the movie. And honestly, I mean, isn't that what real life looks like? One of the biggest lessons I've learned as a parent is that kids don't need perfect parents. They need emotionally healthy adults. Adults who can apologize, adults who can forgive, adults who are willing to put the child ahead of their own pride. And trust me, that's incredibly hard sometimes. Life doesn't always go according to plan. Families don't always look like we imagined they would. Sometimes life throws curveballs we've never, saw coming. But children don't care about perfection. They care about feeling safe, loved, accepted. There's a scene towards the end of this movie that gets me every single time because it isn't really about who's mom. It's about realizing that love isn't something you divide. It's something you multiply. The more people who genuinely love a child, the better. That's a lesson worth remembering whether you're in a traditional family, a blended family, or honestly, somewhere in between. If there was ever a movie that completely surprised me because of how painfully accurate it is, as far as being a father who has 2 adopted kids, it's number 4, Instant Family. Now, when I first watched this movie, I expected a comedy, and it absolutely is. But in this movie, there are moments that will have you laughing out loud because, honestly, it's painfully accurate. Kids have an amazing ability to humble adults, especially parents, especially new parents. But underneath all that humor is an incredibly powerful story. This movie reminds us that becoming a family isn't instant. Even when the paperwork says it is. Trust isn't instant. Security isn't instant. Love grows. And it grows through consistency, through showing up, keeping promises, bedtime stories, soccer games, helping with homework, and even through saying, I'm not going anywhere. One of the things I admire most about foster parents and adoptive parents is the courage it takes to love children who have often experienced unimaginable loss. I mean, imagine being asked to earn the trust of someone whose trust has been completely broken before. It's not an easy task. It's extremely difficult. And the movie doesn't sugarcoat that. There are difficult moments, frustration, misunderstanding, heartbreak. But there's also incredible hope because every child deserves someone who says, you belong here. And as a dad, that message really resonates with me. Whether your child is biological, adopted, fostered, or came into your life another way, being a parent isn't about DNA. It's simply about showing up every single day. And to me, that's what earns the title of mom or dad. Not biology, just love. Now, I know some of you have probably been waiting for this one. Coming in at number 3 is Home Alone. Let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, they forgot Kevin. I'm still trying to figure out how the family managed to board an international flight without realizing one of the kids was missing. I mean, I honestly panic if my son walks into the next aisle at Target for 5 seconds. Kate McAllister misplaced an entire human being. And it's one of those movie plots that absolutely falls apart if you think about it too long. But somehow we all still love it. Why? Because underneath all the slapstick comedy, all the paint cans, all the booby traps, all the pizza, there's actually a beautiful story about family. Kevin spends the first part of the movie wishing everyone would disappear. And honestly, that sounds familiar. I think every kid has that moment. I wish everyone would just leave me alone. Then, of course, Kevin gets exactly what he wanted. And discovered something important. Being alone isn't nearly as fun as having people who love you. Meanwhile, his mom is willing to do absolutely anything to get back to her son. Planes, buses, moving trucks, riding across the country with complete strangers, whatever it takes. And that's parenting. When your child needs you, you'll move mountains. And here's something that really struck me over the years, of watching this movie over and over again. Kate never stops trying. She never says, oh, well. She never gives up. She keeps looking for another way. And isn't that what parenting is? Some days, it feels like everything is going wrong. Plans fall apart. Schedules get blown up. Random temper tantrums happen in the grocery store. You lose your patience. But the next morning, you get up and try again. Parenthood isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. And if we're being honest, can we all agree that if Home Alone happened today, Kevin would have had an AirTag in his backpack, the neighbors would have had Ring cameras, and somebody would have FaceTimed him before the airplane even landed? The movie probably would have been over in 15 minutes, but thank goodness it came out in 1990. Otherwise, we would have missed one of the greatest family movies ever made. Coming in at number 2 is the Pixar classic, Finding Nemo. Now, when this first came out, I thought it was a fun Pixar movie. A clownfish, a forgetful blue tang, a couple of sharks who were trying not to eat fish, a sea turtle who sounded like he had been surfing for 40 years. It was funny, it was exciting, and it was one of those movies that worked for both kids and adults. But then I actually sat down and just paid attention. And suddenly, I wasn't just watching Nemo's story anymore. I was watching Marlin's. The movie opens with every parent's worst nightmare. Marlin loses almost everything. And from that moment on, his entire world revolves around protecting the one thing he has left. And can you blame him? Of course you can't. Every parent wants to protect their child. We want to keep them safe. We want to shield them from disappointment, from failure, heartbreak, pain. If we could bubble wrap our kids and guarantee nothing bad would ever happen, most of us probably would. But here's the problem. That's not how life works. Our job isn't to protect our children from everything. Our job is to prepare them for anything. And that's a huge difference. Marlin spends most of the movie trying to control Nemo's world. But by the end, he learns something every parent eventually has to learn. Trust. We have to trust that the lessons you've taught them, will stay with them. You have to trust that they'll make good decisions. And when they don't, you trust that they'll learn from those too. I'll tell you something I've already noticed as a dad. Every year, my 4-year-old son becomes more independent. Maybe it's something small. Maybe he wants to buckle his own car seat. Maybe he wants to get his own snack. Maybe he wants to carry something that's probably too heavy. And my first instinct is, let me do it. But then I remember, that's how confidence is built. Not always by succeeding, but by trying. One day he'll ride a bike without me holding on to the seat. One day he'll drive away by himself. One day he'll build a life that doesn't require me every single day. And honestly, that's what I want. Now, will it be hard? Absolutely. But if I do my job well, he won't need me the same way forever. And honestly, that's not failure. That's success. And another character I have to mention is Dory. She forgets everything. She swims the wrong direction. She completes, she creates complete chaos. But somehow she reminds Marlin that life isn't, just about avoiding danger. It's about embracing the adventure. Sometimes, we all need a little Dory in our lives. Someone who reminds us to laugh, to believe tomorrow might be better than today, to just keep swimming. And finally, my number 1 parent movie of all time is Mrs. Doubtfire. I don't think there was ever another choice. for number one. Robin Williams wasn't just one of the funniest people who ever lived. He was one of the most compassionate storytellers of our generation. He had this incredible ability to make you laugh and then, without warning, make you cry. When I was a kid, I loved this movie because it was funny. The voices, the disguises, the restaurant scenes, the cooking disaster. Help is on the way, dear. I laughed at every bit of it. But somewhere along the way, when I became a dad, that movie changed. Because today, I don't see a man pretending to be a nanny. I see a father who's terrified of missing out on his children's lives. He doesn't want expensive vacations. He doesn't care about the fancy presents. He wants Tuesday nights. He wants breakfast before school. He wants bedtime stories. He wants homework at the kitchen table. He just wants ordinary moments. And here's what parenting has taught me. Those ordinary moments are actually extraordinary. One day your child's going to ask you to build a blanket fort. Then one day they stop asking. One day they reach for your hand while you're walking through the parking lot. Then one day they don't. One day they want one more bedtime story. Then suddenly they're reading on their own. Nobody tells you which bedtime story will be the last one. No one tells you the last time they'll ask you to carry them, the last time they'll climb in your lap, the last time, they'll say, Daddy, will you play with me? Those moments, honestly, they don't end with a warning. They just quietly become memories. And that's why this movie means so much to me. Not because Daniel is perfect, because he's not. He makes mistakes, big ones, huge ones. But beneath every bad decision is honestly something beautiful. He wants to be present. He understands something every parent eventually learns. Time is the most valuable thing you'll ever give your children. Not money, not toy, not vacation. Time. That's the gift they'll remember. And as I was putting this list together, I realized something. Every movie we've talked about today has a different story. Different characters, different challenges. But every one of them asks the same question. What does love look like? Sometimes it looks like letting go. Sometimes it looks like showing up. Sometimes it looks like making sacrifices that nobody may ever see. And sometimes it looks like dressing up like an elderly British nanny. But I highly suggest you probably don't try that last one. But you honestly get my point. When I started working on this episode, I thought it would just be a fun movie countdown. Something light, something nostalgic. And it has been. I laughed thinking about these movies. I remember scenes I honestly haven't thought about in months, if maybe years. I've thought about the actors who shaped my childhood. But somewhere along the creative process, this episode became about something much bigger. It became about memories. Because that's what parenting is. We are memory makers. We don't get to decide which moments our kids carry with them. Maybe it's a family vacation. Maybe it's Christmas morning. Or maybe it's a random night during the week. Popcorn in a bowl, blankets on a couch, watching a movie you've all seen 100 times, laughing at the same jokes, quoting the same lines. Not because the movie is perfect, but because the people you're watching it with are. And let me tell you something. At the age of 42, I have noticed this one thing. More than anything, life moves fast. It moves way too fast. Sorry, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. One minute, you're teaching your kids how to put their underwear on the right way. And then the next minute, you're helping them pack for college. Every parent I've ever talked to says the same thing. I wish I could go back for just one more ordinary day. Not one more birthday, not one more vacation, just one more ordinary day. One more bedtime story, one more trip to the park, one more movie night. And maybe that's the lesson movies have been trying to teach us all along. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The moments happening right now, honestly, are the perfect moments. So here's my challenge for you this week. Pick one night, and it can be any night. Turn off the phone, put work aside, make some popcorn, pile everyone on the couch, and watch a movie. Laugh together, cry together, quote every line if you have to. Just be there. Because years from now, nobody is going to remember what was on the television that night. But they might remember that they were sitting next to you. And honestly, that's what being a parent is all about. Thank you for spending part of your day with me. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to leave a review, follow the podcast, share it with another parent or movie lover. I want to know what's your number one parent movie of all time. You can reach out to us on our Facebook page, Mostly Me Occasionally Wise, or email me at mostlymecontact@gmail.com. Maybe I'll share, some of your picks in the next episode. But until then, love your family well. Make the memories, laugh a little louder, and don't underestimate the power of an ordinary Tuesday night, because someday you'll realize those ordinary days were the good old days. And as always, stay mostly you, occasionally wise.